West Side, looking for a hood rat to play. Won't you come out and play?
Sylvester was the only black person in the flat, and he kept to himself a lot. Sylvester always kept himself a bit aloof, at least from me, Sweet Pam says. He was like a mini god. The communal lifestyle left little space for quiet heart-to-hearts. There were almost always 3 or more people in a room at once, and Sylvester rarely spoke of anything personal. Sometimes he would be quiet for days, responding to queries with a polite, "I'm all right." After less than a year, Sylvester moved to a dark, quiet, triangular house on Market Street with John Rothermel and another coquette, Daniel Ware. Although he was flaky as the rest of them, showing up late for rehearsals or not showing up at all if he had encountered the right boy or the right hash, Sylvester was always too forward-looking to fully enter Coquette's free-form, messy life. I was in the lifestyle for a penny and for a pound, and for me the Coquettes came out of my lifestyle, Fayette Hauser says. But for him, it was the other way around. He had other things to do. Sylvester was never a hippie like we were. He didn't want to toss it all away. He wanted to sing and drag, and that's what he did with the Coquettes. He was interested in being an artist. Sylvester was uninterested in food stamps and welfare. God bless the child that got his own. When Peter Minton first met Sylvester the spring of 1970, he thought Sylvester was a cool girl. Peter was 20 years old, living in a commune whose glue was a fondness for old things, old records, old photographs, old appliances, old cars. We were like hippies who lived in the 20s. We lived in a house that didn't have anything modern in it. Nothing in it was made after World War II. Peter played the piano for singers, parties, and silent movies at places like Berkeley's Pacific Film Archive under the nom de plume Peter Arden. He wore suspenders and bow ties. His friend John Rothermel had suggested that he come play piano for the Coquettes. Peter had seen a Coquettes show and had a laugh, and he considered himself a go-with-the-flow sort, so he agreed. Peter went to the rehearsal, waiting for a couple of hours for people to show up. As folks wandered in, Peter's eyes widened. These people are so unusual, he thought. A tall black woman in a cap and jeans and a blouse sat down with Peter. "Can you play Stormy Weather?" she asked. Peter could, and he played it, and Sylvester sang. With Peter, Sylvester carved himself a niche at the Palace, neither exactly a coquette nor exactly not one. Occasionally, over the next year and a half, he played a character in a show, often playing up his blackness, a distinguishing feature for sure, to the point of explosion. He collected Negrobilia, Aunt Jemima kerchiefs, watermelon pot holders, Mammy cookie jars, and seemed to enjoy playing cliché campily on the stage. He would take the ultimate stereotype and put it out in the air and let everybody see it, poking fun at it, tongue-in-cheek. By doing it, Peter Minton says no other black performer was doing that at the time. It's kind of like trolling. Like the idea of it is like trolling. Doing something to get a reaction. Like what trolls do. They either do something or say something or act crazy to get a specific reaction. And that indeed would do it. You around a whole bunch of white folks, Sylvester. What the hell you dressing like Angel Mama for? You crazy? Sometimes Sylvester could play the prima donna so well you'd almost think he was one. He was hard to pin down for solo rehearsals, leaving Peter waiting for hours and then arriving with an exhausted, "Oh, child, I had the most fabulous night at the baths." Child, for those of you who don't know what the baths is, that's where the men's go, male, straight or gay, to meet people, blink, if you know what I'm saying. To meet people, blink. I had the most fabulous night at the baths. Child, I'm worn out. But he always arrived with a very clear idea of what he planned to do and what he wanted others to do to make it look right. You did it his way or it didn't happen. Yeah, that's about right. That's how you Virgos be. Sylvester on stage trying to be his best diva. And then you got the Cockettes, who are basically a vaudeville act, flipping and flopping around behind him. He trying to give his best diva, and these fools in back of him acting. Now, yes, Sylvester is a part of the Cockettes, but he not with all that bullshit. Cockettes are there to have fun, enjoy, and make people laugh. Sylvester is here to do that too, but he's taking his craft seriously. Don't make me look like a goddamn fool. I'm trying to be serious here. I am in character. Action. During a performance of the Cockettes' October 1970 show, while Sylvester was singing "Someone to Watch Over Me," Hibiscus took to the stage in a zebra skin costume, dancing around and eventually wandering into the spotlight. Sylvester watched out of the corner of his eye, and his face went steely as he finished the song. After his number, Sylvester left the stage to boisterous applause and waited in the wings for Hibiscus to come off stage. When he did, Sylvester slapped fire from his ass. "Bitch, are you out of your mind, bitch? The spotlight is mine. Don't you ever come on this stage and upstage me. Are you a fool?" And Hibiscus is grabbing his pearls like, "Wait a minute, I thought you was a part of Cockettes. This is what we do. We Cockette." Another time, a local artist made a beautiful butcher paper backdrop for Sylvester. A giant blue bird with notes coming out of its mouth. As Sylvester was singing, the rolled up paper began to unfurl behind him. The audience, keen appreciators of the unintended, applauded so enthusiastically that Sylvester had to stop mid-song. The next night, he insisted that the blue bird be lowered before his song began. Diva, for real, I didn't know this. Okay, you smacking fire from people, and the dude's sitting there holding his cheek like, "What did I do? What did I do?" Now you mad at the paper mache bird behind you? Sylvester made sure he had his own little space apart from the mayhem and sloppiness of the Cockettes, so he could recreate a musical moment from another place and time. So I'm kind of understanding why things went the way they went with the Cockettes. Sylvester's blues jazz persona was less a masquerade than a lived homage. If his discotheque self was him, his mother, his grandmother, and Twiggy rolled into one, his woman of the blues was a collection of star personae from the 20s, 30s, and 40s. Lena, Bessie, Josephine, Billy. There was a lot for him to admire about blues women. Ma Rainey, Bessie Smith, and Alberta Hunter, wild women. Blues singers did not let a man or the church get in their way. They stared down racists sometimes or just ignored them. They made good money. They had no qualms about going out and getting sex and telling all about it. Papa likes his bourbon. Mama likes her gin, Ma Rainey sang. Papa likes his outside women. Mama likes her outside men. Bullshit the baker. We all know that Ma Rainey likes the ladies. Okay, bullshit the baker. If y'all ain't never seen that movie Ma Rainey, oh my gosh. I think it's one of Chadwick Boseman's last movies. If you don't see, man, when I tell you, what's her name? Viola Davis killed that role. Okay, I mean, she killed it. Sylvester's solo performances were as simple as the Cockettes were cluttered. Sometimes during the day, Peter and Sylvester would tootle around San Francisco looking for photo opportunities and laughing. Let me tell you what they would do. They would get in the car, drive around to the rich people's house, and take pictures at the rich people's gates, their fountains, their grass, on their trees, next to their pools, whatever, and take the pictures like they carefree, like they lived it. As they had become more popular, many of the Cockettes wanted the shows to be more professional, and they had begun writing full scripts and insisting on rehearsals and on getting paid. For Hollywood Babylon, they had even used a director. Hibiscus was against taking money and committed to free-willing, unscripted performances. Hibiscus was against any structure, Creamer complained to Rolling Stone later that year. He thought we should do everything on stage, but he wanted to be the superstar. Hibiscus retorted that the Cockettes completely suck up people's brains. Hibiscus, oh, he can't get his way. So he's starting to fight. What the fuck you mean I can't have my way? I want my way. Is you with me or is you with them? So now we got a Cockettes divided. Some people went with Hibiscus and some people stayed over there. Soon came a high drama blowout involving nasty words and some fisticuffs, in which Hibiscus took some like-minded Cockettes with him and founded the Angels of Light, a more underground, spiritually oriented, explicitly political troupe committed to free performance. The Cockettes are too straight for me, said Tahara, who joined Hibiscus as an angel. In a 1971 interview, the Angels of Light do not look back on burning Sodom. They do not render unto Caesar. They don't see the height of beauty of the president as a dying Marilyn Monroe. Creamer Ritz, then still known as Big Durrell, announced that he intended to have the Cockettes' name trademarked. For his part, Sylvester was tiring of being the blues diva with the one-shot guest spot, and tired of living in another era. He was beginning to reimagine himself as the love child of Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin, with electric guitars and rhinestones on his platform shoes, feather boas, and an afro. Sylvester went looking for new singers and found some sisters named Pointer. The Pointer sisters wore halter tops and afro wigs and love beads. They weren't hippies. That was a white scene, Anita says, but from a distance they supported the rebellion of the white kids their age, and they lived just around the corner culturally and geographically. In a funky, shaky flat on Gold Street that they absolutely loved. Drunken men hanging out on the corner had helped move a piano up the stairs. In 1971, they were making about $50 a week, singing, not enough to buy a car, but enough to leave their day job. In the fall of 1971, Anita Pointer got a call asking if they'd like to sing with someone named Sylvester. None of the sisters had heard of him, but a gig is a gig. So Anita took down the address, and she and Bonnie and June went to a dank basement rehearsal space. There they found Sylvester with his hair slicked back and a mass of bracelets. His flamboyance was nothing new. They had gay friends and family members, and they were living in Haight Ashbury, for God's sakes. But his voice was different. I was just amazed at how hard and how high and how strong he sang. His voice was so powerful, he would just wail. Most falsettos are very small and thin. His was really gutsy. Falsettos are really flighty and airy to me. He wanted the Pointer Sisters to sing above him, and Anita thought the top of her head might just blow off. The Pointers were already dressing mostly in 40s thrift store fashions, so Sylvester just spruced them up with sequin tops and feathered hats pulled from his closet. He liked what we were doing, Anita Pointer says, but he wanted it to glitter and shine and all that. Once after rehearsal over at the Pointers' house, Sylvester initiated a crazy day of dressing up and taking pictures. The departure of Hibiscus cleared a path, many of the remaining coquettes seemed to think, for the big time. Remember, Hibiscus left, and he formed his own group, the Angel of Lights, where they can sit there, do LSD and hash and jump around the stage in Donkey Kong outfits all they want. Now know this, the coquettes didn't completely abandon the idea of free-thinking, hippie shenanigans on stage. The coquettes are now in New York City. At first, it was an eventful experience. That's right, Lulu. But after a while, they started realizing that drag queens come a dime a dozen in New York. And people weren't as enthused to see the coquettes the way they were in San Francisco. So they're at a specific show. This audience is not feeling their asses, okay? I'm bored with the just going on stage being a drag queen and acting a ninja. We're bored with that. By the time the opening night show was over, those who had stayed to watch the whole thing filed out of the theater, as one observer put it, as if leaving awake. "It's 3 years old and it's boring," a woman leaving the theater commented, and then corrected herself. "It's 5 years old and it's boring. It's no good just being a drag queen anymore. Anybody can do that." Many had actually fled shortly after the show began. Rumors circulated that Angela Lansbury had stood up and said, "Let's get the fuck out of here. Wait a minute, Murder, She Wrote." Rumors circulated that Angela Lansbury had stood up and said, "Let's get the fuck out of here," and had taken a whole row with her. "My God," said Rex Reed, whose column had made this bomb possible. "This is worse than Hiroshima. Having no talent is not enough," he commented, paraphrasing a line from Gypsy. The coquettes got better over the next few nights, switched to the glitzier pearls over Shanghai the next week, and performed through the run of their 2-week contract. But the damage of opening night was irreparable. The only person who hadn't laid an egg in New York in November 1971 was Sylvester. He had gone to all the major parties and done quite a bit of shopping, but he had also rehearsed every day with his band, the Hot Band, on stage for 2 hours, while miscellaneous coquettes and Workers hammered sets and strung up curtains around them. The day of the opening, Sylvester's background singers, the Pointer Sisters, had disappeared and then reappeared, but Sylvester rehearsed them until the minute the doors were opening. Wait a minute, Anita and maybe were they doing drugs then? I know June was. Maybe that's what they was doing, looking for June. Few of the Cockettes ever performed in that town or any other again. By 1972, the crazy colors and new shapes of psychedelics and hallucinogens were fast being knocked out of the San Francisco scene by edgy, buzzing, estranging drugs like PCP and speed. The wind that had carried the Cockettes to San Francisco prominence seemed to suddenly die down. It always happened, girl. Everybody had their time. Everybody on top. And then you fall a little and then you're replaced. That's just what happens. It's called the circle of life. That's what happens in everywhere, especially in entertainment. People, I hate to say it, are fair weather. Hell, last month it was Beyonce's internet. This month is Cat Williams' internet. We don't know who the internet is going to be next month. Sylvester came back from New York floating on a cloud, on stage in Manhattan with screaming crowds on their feet. His life was a real fantasy, full of kissy promises where the Cockettes had been rudely awakened from their dreams. Sylvester had had one of his come true.